Okay, the runner is finally ready with the warm-up, so without much further ado, I'm gonna click a few buttons, and we're all ready to go. So, over to you, Viper.
Alright, what is up everybody? I am SuperViperT302, returning for the third time. This is Pack and Roll Remix. This is a fun little game that's a part of Namco Museum Remix and Namco Museum Mega Mix for the Wii. So we're just going to go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, go! Alright, so the primary mechanic we're going to be using for going fast in this game is this little boost here, which is just done by simply shaking the Wii remote. The game intends for you to use this boost to like break open boxes and stuff, but obviously you can also use it for going fast. And when you do it when going off of slopes, you can get a lot of height, and that's going to be useful for some skips later on in the run. So that's kind of the main movement in this game. As for kind of how most of these levels work, in most of these levels I'm going to be collecting a lot of pack dots to unlock these green barriers known as Galvus gates. And that will allow me to progress in the game. There are a couple gates later on in the run that I can skip, but we'll get to those when we get to those. These first few levels are pretty self-explanatory and pretty straightforward, and there isn't much to say about them, so I'll talk about some of the new game plus rules this game has. If you notice in the lower right-hand corner, I have 7 bars of health. You're supposed to start with 3, but there's various fruit items you can collect throughout the game that give you extra bars of health. And since this game auto-saves, you're allowed to have already collected all of those bars of health so that the game doesn't auto-save and you don't have to reset your Wii's memory every single time you want to do a run. That's also why I already have the game already completed, and I even have like all the scores maxed out and stuff. You're allowed to have that just because so you don't have to deal with the annoyingness that would be wiping your memory every single time. So, that's kind of it. So now here I'm going to use a slope boost here to skip this ramp right there. And now as I'm boosting into these boxes, I'm doing a technique called braking, where I'm kind of pressing the Z button after I hit them, which stops Pac-Man in place entirely, and just kind of keeps him from flying all over the place. Like, because that's kind of the last thing you want is for Pac-Man to just fling all over the place and then fall to his oblivion. So 1-4 is where we're introduced to the first of the power-ups. It's specifically Night Pack. Night Pack makes Pac-Man a lot heavier. He can go underwater, and he's a bit slower and has less height from slope boosts and stuff, but he can break these metal boxes, which normal Pac-Man can't do. Right here I'm doing a strat where I just clear out one side of Pac Dots and then clear the other side on the way back, because that saves me from having to do back and forth movement. So 1-5 is where we're supposed to be introduced to Light Pack, which makes Pac-Man really broken. He kind of can last longer in midair, he's a bit more floatier, he gets more height from slope boosts and stuff, but I'm actually going to be skipping him. I'm actually going to be skipping the Light Pack card because normal Pack's movement is much faster, and if I play this stage as normal Pack, it's possible for me to make a platform cycle that saves around 8 seconds. So that's a pretty significant time save, so go ahead and use normal Pack for the stage, and it looks like I'm going to be making this cycle. There we go. And we're done with World 1. We're going to move on to World 2, where we're going to see Light Pack for the first time, and the first big skip of the run. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to grab Night Pack. Oh, if I can get on the platform in the first place. I'm going to grab Night Pack, go underwater, grab Light Pack, turn around. I'm going to slope boost from here to get to this platform that you can't normally get to the end of the level. Let's grab around that boost, break that box, and then get this. Let's grab in that tiny slit and jump into the gold platform without opening the gate. That saves around 35 seconds over doing the stage normally. So unfortunately, there are no gate skips in this level, but there are some tiny skips I can go for. Such as I can use these bounce pads to kind of get up here early. And then I can use, I'm going to do that again over here. We have looked for a gate skip in this level, but it's just barely not possible. You need Light Pack to be able to get through this final section. There's just simply no way to get past it without it. You can come pretty close to getting up here with normal Pack, but it's just not possible. But the next level is the biggest tease in the whole game, because The goal platform is right behind where you start, but there's no way to reach it using a slope boost. And the skip would save like a minute if it were possible. So, unfortunately, I do have to play through this stage normally. And this is a pretty challenging stage to get through optimally because you have to, there's a lot of parts to it, and there's a lot of pack dots that you have to be eating for the gates. And sections like this are really difficult because you have to be maneuvering Pac-Man specifically so that he can get all those pack dots, but he's moving really fast, and he's also being affected by the slopes, and it's just painful. But we made it through alright. Coming up, there are a couple of cycles I might have to worry about. These platforms, I kind of got bopped by that one. Unfortunately, I should be good on pack dots. Coming up is what used to be one of the most inconsistent parts of the run, the bowl. So this bowl used to be pretty infamous because it's really not that easy to find your way out of it. There aren't really that many visual indicators, but it turns out there is a visual indicator. See that power pellet right there? If I move just a little bit to the right of that, I will always go the right way. I found that pretty recently, and it is a lifesaver. That we are done with 1-3, 2-3. And we're going to be moving on to the first boss fight of the game. So Galvis boss fights in this game require you to eat 3 power pellets so that Galvis becomes vulnerable, and then you have to eat him, and you do this 3 times. The power pellets for these fights will always appear in the same locations, so I know where they're going to be ahead of time, so I know where to get to. This fight in particular is just kind of going through this long circular path. On the 3rd power pellet, I do wait for Galvis, because otherwise I have to chase him down, and that can waste time, because he can sometimes be really far away. And here I have Night Pack, which is a power pellet that's going to spawn underwater. I technically don't need Night Pack to get it, but it doesn't really matter because I still have to wait for Galvis at the 3rd power pellet anyways. And also I can use Night Pack to get through that metal box. There we go, we are done with World 2. And yes, this is a Wii game, so I do have to worry about my sensor bar for level select screens. So here's World 3. This is kind of one of the more difficult worlds. This is where the difficulty kind of starts to ramp up in runs. For this first stage, there's a cycle I want to make after this first Galvis gate that I'm going to feed some pack dots to now. That stays around 10 seconds. And requires me to have really good movement throughout the first section of the level, but also for this route, I can't miss a single pack dot in this first section. So we're gonna try not to miss anything here and try to have good movement at the same time. Fortunately, recent movement optimizations have made this a lot easier. So there we go, that's every pack dot, and I should be on pace to make the cycle. So right before I get on this car, I'm gonna grab Light Pack, because I'm gonna need this. Now that I got on the car and I'm on these platforms, I technically don't need the car for the rest of the stage. I can just skip the car by doing these ledge grab hops in between these platforms. And then, coming up, I'm going to do some slope boosts to get to these final 2 platforms. One more here. And since I skipped a platform earlier, I have exactly as many pack dots as I need to finish the stage. There we go. And next is 3-2. So this stage offers itself a variety of options as to how to go about it, where to use Night Pack and where to use Normal Pack. What I'm going to be doing is, once I reach the Night Pack cards, I'm going to inch past it for the first time through. So right there, I did that. But I'm going to grab it on the way back. You can technically skip Night Pack for this entire first section, but it's really hard to save time with it, and it's overall just not worth it for a reset list. So I'm going to use Night Pack to grab some underwater pack dots because you need at least a few of those to get through this section. You can also skip having to grab that normal pack card and then skip having to eat Blinky in the next section, but normal Pac-Man moves so much faster that it's worth it to just grab the normal pack card. Sacrifice a few seconds to eat Blinky. Oh, get out. Yeah, Pac-Man can be really difficult to control in this game. Sometimes it takes a lot of precision to really get the movement down. It's really easy to just have him bonking into everything, as you see there. 3-3 is one of the first levels where cycles are a bit of a problem. end cycles are something I have to be worrying about. This first section has 3 back-to-back cycles I need to make, but they're not really that hard to make if you have good movement. And I can also afford to miss 1 tack dot if I need to. Alright, we're going to be a little risky here. I probably should not have gone for that, but we made the cycle. Alright, so now for this section, I'm going to be spending as little time waiting for these platforms as possible. So what I do is I grab 3 tack dots from there and then boost back. And now I'm going to grab all these tack dots and make it back on before losing my ride. It's kind of a useful little thing you can do. This last section coming up is pretty straightforward. I don't really have to play too fast to miss the cycle, and also I can afford to miss a few tack dots if I need to. Not as many as I'm missing right now. Alright. I think I'm 1 too short. Yeah, I'm 1 too short, so I'm gonna have to get a pack dot from here. And then wait for this platform. This is a pretty big time hit, because every cycle missed is around 6 seconds, I think. Yeah, that's around 12 seconds lost. 3-4 is going to be one of those levels where I'm going to be really stingy on how many pack dots I collect for the end of the level and for a particular reason. Plus this first section, I only have 3 spare pack dots anyways, so I might as well collect every one. Alright, so we're gonna get all these over here. I'm gonna boost into the water here to ditch Night Pack and grab Normal Pack, because again, Night Pack moves so much faster. So I'll go ahead and explain this now. Coming up at the end of this stage is a car that you have to ride in order to get some pack dots, because there's no way to skip the gate you need the pack dots for, and there's no way to skip the roller coaster as well. Get on the car, please. I've missed 2 pack dots, so I'd say that's around 3 seconds lost, because I'd say each pack dot you miss wastes. If you miss around, I think the most you can miss without losing too much time is 5. So you can't skip this car, except you kinda can, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Shoutouts to this section being incredibly stupid in all pack dots. It is possible to do this on 1 cycle. I have done it before, but it is not easy. So once I reach 80 pack dots, I am actually going to do something a little weird. I am going to die on purpose. And this will place me back at the checkpoint, and I'll have all 80 pack dots that I need so I can speed into the gate. And the game is going to autosave here because my life count changed. It does that regardless of whether you gained lives or lose lives, the game will autosave. Alright, so here's the World 3 boss fight. This is probably one of the most difficult boss fights in the game, just because we're going to be using Light Pack to kind of fly all over the stage, and this second phase is really, really difficult. It's really easy to get knocked off by Galvis during this phase, as I almost just did. There we go. When they both start firing wind at the same time, it's really difficult to maneuver Pac-Man optimally. Also, if you die during a boss fight, you have to redo it. So for this third phase, I'm going to be timing my Power Pellets and Ghost Eats at very specific times so that Galvis stays stunned for as long as possible. And that kind of stun locks him in such a way that I can eat him without too many issues. Now we're heading on to World 4, Flaming Fortress, so we skip the DS World 4, which is Ghostland, go straight to this level. This world is probably the most difficult in an any % run. There's a lot that can go wrong here, and I've already kind of screwed myself out of a few seconds because this stage is really difficult to have good movement in. There's a cycle at the very end that I'm probably going to miss that wastes around 4 seconds, and also you have to collect every pack dot in every section of the level. There's no gate skips in this level either, despite how much we've looked for them. This game, when you would think you could scenery abuse for a lot of stuff in this game, there's just a bunch of invisible walls. It's kind of sad. Gotta hit that button to make all the walls lower. Now we're gonna do 4-2. This level is relatively straightforward, and there isn't a whole lot to say about it. There's really just gonna be a matter of taking damage a lot throughout this level, but there's these fruit items that heal you throughout the run, so that's useful. Sometimes the damage is useful, like right here I'm gonna damage boost through these falling boulders or something, I don't know. Here I'm gonna grab Light Pack, because I'm gonna be using it to skip some of these bounce pad platforms, which does kind of put me short on pack dots, but I meant to grab that normal pack card. Yeah, this does kind of put me short on pack dots, but there are plenty of pack dots in this stage, so it's not a huge deal. Here I'm probably going to be taking damage a couple times, because it's nearly impossible to dodge all these things. And also movement is difficult. And now just this final section to go through. 2 health is... Alright, finished the stage with 1 health. That was kind of bad. So for this next stage, I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Joester98, who unfortunately is not here at the moment, but he found this strat where you boost across these platforms, which saves absolutely no time because you're still bound by a platform cycle later on, but it makes the cycle so much easier to make. Like, it was possible beforehand, but now as you can see, I can wait so long for it. You can't make an earlier cycle, but you can waste a lot of time earlier in the stage and still make this cycle. Alright. Now I'm gonna boost into these bounce pads to get back in some momentum so we can cross this section. And right here, you can technically go around those moving things, those moving bars on here, but the way this section is routed, it wouldn't really save time. And that boost to that bounce pad actually saves like 2 seconds. So do it, because it's time save. Now we're moving on to what I believe is the hardest stage in this category. It looks simple, but it's actually really terrible. 4-4 is just kind of this long downwards path with no skips, and I already died. Lovely. Yeah, that's kind of the risk with the stage. So I'm going to be going for boosting almost the entire time. The danger behind this is that most of the boosts that I do near slopes like here are really risky because it's very easy to have Pac-Man just go flying off the stage like a maniac. And also, the boosts I'm doing around turns are also really difficult because the camera is not really helpful. It's really hard to manage both your control and the camera at the same time. In addition, the checkpoints are really spread out in this level. Except for right here, where after doing some boost across this narrow pathway, there was just another checkpoint. But there's no Galvus gates in this level, so I don't need to worry about collecting pack dots. And right here, you're supposed to ride these bounce pads all the way across, but I'm a little too good for that, so I'm just going to go to the side of it. We're coming up on the end of the stage here. Hopefully I don't die. You can't skip any of these bounce pad platforms. It's not possible to go far enough. You have to take all of them. So an unfortunate death at the start, but fortunately it was really quick, so it's not a huge issue. But now we're heading on to another really difficult stage, 4-5. So this is a stage that Joester also found a glitch in called bounce or lava boosting. While grounded on a bounce pad or lava, it is possible to enter a boosting state, and this obviously can give Pac-Man a good amount of speed, and I'm going to be using that a lot in this level, especially since I'm going to be using lava to damage abuse about a bunch of falling towers that you normally would have to climb. And right here I'm going to be using bounce boosting to skip a lot of these bounce pad platforms. It's nearly frame perfect in 60 frames per second and relies on motion controls, so not fun. Yeah, here's our lava boosting. Oh boy. 3 damage is not too great, but I can work with it. I'm gonna try to get some good lava boosts around these towers. There we go. So I'm behind by a good cycle or 2. This is, I think, normal cycle. You can make this a cycle earlier, but you have to have pretty good movement throughout the stage. You can actually make it 2 cycles earlier, but that's IL strat only. Here's my final set of lava boosts. I'm dead. I'm actually just gonna go ahead and kill myself so that I have health for this. You need to be able to get a lava boost here, and I was shaking the Wii remote like a maniac, so I don't know why that didn't work. That stage can kill your run really easily, though. Here is the World 4 boss. So, we used to think this first phase was terrible in terms of RNG, but you can just slow boost each of these power pellets and not have to worry about anything. Otherwise, you'd have to wait for Golbus to rotate the platform towards the power pellet, which can take forever. Right here, okay, I got good RNG. So, Golbus can rotate the platform either clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't really matter, but doing it that way is slightly faster. Although it does mean the platform will be less stabilized by the time the third phase starts. But thankfully for this phase, you can just slow boost to the power pellets. So now we're going to be moving on to World 5, and if you've been paying attention at all throughout this run, or even if you haven't been paying attention, you might remember that for the first 4 worlds, only one level have a really big skip. In this world, every single level has a major skip, and also this is a world exclusive to the Wii version, which makes it even more hilarious. So, this first level, the goal platform is right next to where you start, but it's not possible for me to reach it right now because there's a bunch of invisible walls that block me from getting there. However, if I go over here and grab Light Pack after clearing that first gate, I can use one slope in particular to get a high enough boost to clear all of the invisible collision and land on a corner of the goal platform, which skips the second and third gates of this level and saves around 50 seconds. But we're not done with the big skips yet, obviously, because now we're on to 5-2, where I'm going to be utilizing falling to get around death planes and skip all the way down to the bottom of the level. And now I'm going to use a glitchy ledge bounce to skip the gate or die. Yeah, that slow boost is a little weird. Nice. That glitchy ledge bounce is really difficult to get on the first try. But now I'm gonna do 5-3, and this level is really easy. You just fall from beginning to end. Bam. Now I'm gonna do 5-4, so this level is actually somewhat long. This stage is pretty neat. There's a lot of nice movement. There's a few cycle-based elements throughout it, and there's one really big skip at the end. Alright, I'm going to try to beat this cycle out. Nice. So I'm going to skip a cycle here by going around this gear early and getting in here. And I'm going to do some more cycle skips after this gate. I'm going to use a technique called crisscrossing, where I'm going to go across the corners of these platforms and skip having to wait on them. So the big skip in this level is just once I reach the light pack cards and the bounce pads right in front of them, I can use them to go straight to the final gear of the level, which saves around 25 to 30 seconds. And I have a timer cue for when to go. There we go. It looks harder than it is, and if you're scared to do that, there's another skip that's 5 seconds slower and is really easy. So here's the World 5 boss. Once again, the power pellets will always appear in the same spot, so I know where they're going to appear ahead of time, so it's just a matter of getting to them quickly and not dying. If you're interested in running this game, you can. No one really. This game, I'm kind of the only person who really runs this game. So if you're interested, you can always hit me up on like Discord or Twitch or whatnot, and I will teach you everything you need to know. This is a very enjoyable game. It's very sweet. It's actually not that difficult to learn, in my opinion. There's currently only one other person who's ever done runs of it, and that's Joester98. In addition, join the Pac-Man Discord. We are one of the most underrated speedrunning communities out there, and I think you'll really enjoy the community. And there's a lot of really good Pac-Man games. Also, yeah, this final boss is in 2 phases, and this phase has epic music. So for this second phase, I'm going to be kind of worrying about cycles here, in terms of these ghost enemies and also these platforms. So I have to make sure I play this stage perfectly, basically, in order to make sure I stay on the correct route. Otherwise, I'll get thrown off with my cycles. But so far, we're doing pretty good. This last phase isn't difficult. Time's coming up, by the way. It's going to be when I eat Galvis for the final time. So get ready for that on my... That is such an easy mistake to make. It is super easy to overshoot a bounce pad like that. So now this isn't going to be a 24, which is actually really embarrassing. This is not a good run. Alright. Over to Galvis here real quick. Okay, so now once again, time is coming up really quick. It's going to be when I eat Galvis for the final time, so hopefully I don't fall off like a moron this time. Alright, here we go, and time. Not my worst marathon run ever, but still not that great. So my timer says a 25:23. That is 2 minutes and 1 second behind the current world record. And that time is actually still 6 minutes better than second place. So yeah, that's Pack and Roll Remix. Hope you enjoyed that run. And yeah, as always, thank you for watching. And I will throw it on over to the host now.
Yo, thank you very much. That was a fun run to watch. Bunch of wacky hijinks. Anyway, up next we have Pac-Man World by the often referenced Joester. So I'm gonna check if I can find him and set things up. So see you guys in a bit.